Hey guys, what is up? Roshi is here. Today we're taking a look at the brand new promo. Today is the day you'll be able to have a playset of the promo if you've logged on every day since the quest has been out. Promo's pretty sick. I'm going to hop into what synergies we can potentially use with this. I don't have any decks brewed up for it, but I can give you some ideas of where to get started and where I'll probably get started myself once I'm ready to brew this card. So let's hop into it. The new card is Scrapfind Skimmer. Scrapfind Skimmer, sorry. Flying regen, both helpful abilities. Regen can really just lock down a board. Big scary overwhelm monsters are not able to punch through this. You can stop a big lifesteal, so these stats are actually pretty good. It might seem a little undercosted for a 6-drop, but having regen really helps this card a lot. Next up, we've got Summon. Look at the top 8 cards of your deck, choose one to put on top, and discard the rest. So, there's a lot going on here, and more than it just seems. Like, you look at this card and you're like, okay, well, I spend 6 power, and I'm not really getting a card out of it. You know, why am I playing this over Honor of Claws? Or, you know, whatever. And I'd say the reason is, 8 cards is a lot to dig. Especially from one effect. You're basically playing 2 more than an Honor of Claws, and you're getting a 6-power 4/4 beater out of it with regen. Definitely will help stall the board. And another thing to keep in mind is, since you're discarding the rest of the cards, this enables any sort of void shenanigans or discard strategies, you name it. Plenty of cards that work well with this. I actually took some time and went through every single card I think has at least some sort of synergy with this guy. And because you're looking at 8 cards, there's a chance that there's going to be something very good left on top of your deck. So I like this card. I'm excited to play some games with it, and definitely I'll brew up some fun stuff to use this card. But let's go ahead and just take a look at different synergies. For the most part, you'll see I have a big pile of cards, you know. Faceless one likes to be discarded. Star Reader Severin's pretty bad, but I included him just for the sake of completeness. It's something you could be doing. Auric Reclaimer. Definitely could see potentially you discard a whole bunch of stuff. Maybe you discard Auric Reclaimer as well. And a big, maybe a big weapon, like a massive greatsword or something. And then you can use that shift spell to bring him back shifted, and it'll put that weapon into play. So that's pretty sick. Endless Nightmare. This guy just will come back for free. Probably not going to be one of the more common choices for this, but Wisp could certainly go in the deck, even if you don't... Like, let's say we're playing a Scrapfind Skimmer deck. We don't actually need to be playing time to play Wisp. I know I was mentioning Honor of Claws earlier, but there's no reason why we can't just play both Honor of Claws and Scrapfind Skimmer in the same list. In fact, you probably would. So you could discard them from your deck with Skimmer, and then you could even use Honor of Claws to just discard them from your hand, or plunder them away, or market them away if you draw them early. So we can definitely pull stuff off like that. In the same boat, Feral Mandrake's actually pretty sick. I played with this card a little bit, and it's actually better than it seems. It's definitely at its best when you're playing with Donica, which would be the 4-drop Elysian promo, like the Elysian creature from this cycle. You know, we had the set of 4-drops from each faction combo. Because whenever Donica would come back, if you had a Donica in play, and then you transform something with a Turn to Seed, or whatever you transform with, all your Mandrakes will come into play and trigger your Donica from imbuing, and you'll draw a ton of cards. So that's pretty sick. Also, just getting the random 2/2 can be nice. Mitotic Wisp. If you have this in play, when you trigger your Scrapfind Skimmer, there's a chance that you just trigger this in one go, and maybe you rip a Nazindel or something out of your list. Dawnwalkers. If we're playing like a Reanimator list, it could be cool to be able to bring these guys back. Umbran Deathwatcher, just included this because he could be a massive beater if he's enabled by Scrapfind Skimmer. I don't really know if this is going to be the direction you go, but keep in mind this isn't uncommon, so if you're a budget player, this could totally be an option for you. especially down in like bronze, silver, or gold, where things can be a little more mellow. Next up, Azindel the Wayfinder. Once again, if this guy's sitting in play when your Scrapfind Skimmer goes off, that's going to give you a ton of power. Katra, if we fill our void with power, thanks to the Scrapfind Skimmer, we'll be able to surge and play a bunch of depleted power, which is sweet, and plus we're likely to have Scrapfind Skimmer around as a body, so we'll get that 1 extra power. If we filled our void with random 2-drops, Memory Dredger can get them back. In the same faction, if we're playing the Wisp strategy, we could be using Soulbringers to bring back all of our Wisps. Maybe we play Twin Spiteling as well. That could be sweet. Okessa, if Okessa's in play when we play our Scrapfind Skimmer and we discard a bunch of relics, that would count as them going to the void and you get a ton of treasures. I don't know how good that actually is, but it's a synergy, so it's worth pointing out. Westwind Herald, I've actually played this before in a Haunted Scream list, and this could potentially be an option for that list, is to play Scrapfind Skimmer, just have a nice big booty flyer on the board, and then hopefully it'll discard a few of our Westwind Heralds, which we can then scream back and cast 8 of the Horus out of nowhere, which is hilarious. Ancient Serpent, pretty straightforward. I actually have Reread in here as well, and Ancient Serpent's literally just Reread on a stick. So between a lot of the cards that synergize well with Scrapfind Skimmer just are naturally like big flyers. I mean, this isn't that big of a flyer, the body isn't great, but if you're playing enough removal or enough synergy, you know, these flyers could be all it takes. Like, you just, you know, the rest of your hand is like killing their stuff, and then we're just flying over their board and finishing them off. I could easily see that being a strategy. This was a meme include. There's not a lot of very good shift cards, but don't let me stop you. Vara, if we're discarding things, obviously a Reanimator deck starts to get pretty good, and I think Scrapfind Skimmer and Reanimator could be quite solid. I included Azindel and Vara for the same reason. Just any sort of Reanimator strategy is going to have a good time with Scrapfind Skimmer. Clockwork Sentinel. A lot of the stuff I've included so far has been creatures, so if we're filling our void with random stuff that's going to be coming back, we can also add some Sentinels and give those guys some beef, so to speak. Another option for this is there's the Stranger that does the same thing, and you could also play the Void guy. He's a Wisp that's a 3-power 2/2 unblockable and buffs your void. Maybe there's something there. Scourge of Frostholm. I included this in the Reanimator strategy. You could use Near Perfect Imitation and bring him back. And thanks to Skimmer, you actually wouldn't even really need to be playing Shadow to do this. This could be even a mono primal list if you were so inclined. And you could just put a Scourge of Frostholm into play. There's actually a lot of reasonable big primal guys you could be reanimating as well. So that's something you could potentially look out for. Next up, we've got Hourglass. This kind of fits in the Reanimator shell, but if we're putting a bunch of power in our void, we can put them back in play and cast our big threats if we draw them, and then we don't have to worry about always needing to reanimate, we'll just cast things. Wyatt's Junkyard. Once again, if we're filling our void, getting stuff from our void is fantastic. This basically might as well just say Smuggler Stash on a site, because that's what we're using it for. But if it sticks around, sometimes Decay and Treachery can be relevant. Just be careful not to die with your Wyatt Junkyard dog against a Dickrow's Ruin. If they're playing Dickrow's Ruin, do not cast Wyatt's Junkyard. Just don't do it. Unless you have a way to kill it yourself, or kill the Dickrow's Ruin, you will die to it, and it won't be fun. Deleth's Awakening. Since we're filling our void, this just seems to synergize well. With 7 cards going in, this is basically enough to almost trigger 1 draw all on its own. So that's pretty sick. Icy Gaze. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It might slow your opponent down, and maybe if we're doing a discard 7, some coincidental stunnage could be what we want. I highly doubt it, but live your best life, and don't let me stop you. Privileged of Rank, in the same boat, and actually much better. Getting making sure we hit all our power drops can be quite valuable. So this, even if we're not really playing that many Justice cards, it can be worth your time to include Privileges of Ranks in the same deck, kind of in the same vein as Ephemeral Wisp. Like, we could be a mono primal list that's literally just playing Wisp and Privilege of Rank and a few Justice Sigils just to get the value, and there's nothing wrong with that. Reread, getting spells back, also much cheaper than Ancient Serpent. I think you probably play 4 rereads before you play even 1 Ancient Serpent, but I'll leave that up to you, especially if you're playing Haunted Scream. This card can be great. Another card that works fantastically with Reread and Ancient Serpent, Shared Vision. Thanks to our Scrapfind Skimmer, we get to pick which card is on top of our deck. So potentially, maybe there's an Azindel on our deck, and then we played Shared Visions, and we give that Azindel Destiny. That seems like a very good play. Plus, after the Shared Vision ticks around, it's going to give you another random card for free as well. Potentially, you could be using Second Sight for some additional Shared Vision synergy, but that would be its own deck and its own video, so we won't go too off the deep end with that. But this card could be solid with Scrapfind Skimmer, and definitely could be something that makes a resurgence. I know I haven't really played with Shared Vision much since my original deck with it back when this card came out, and I think there's some unexplored potential here, and this could be... having another enabler like Second Sight could be what it takes to make this card good. Just make sure you have enough bodies, and you're good to go. Torrent of Spiders. This is one I'm actually extremely excited for with Scrapfind Skimmer. This has always been one of my favorite cards. I've been playing this card. I used to play it with Callus all the time, and then after Callus was basically replaced by Shine to carve it, because it's just better, I played it in those decks as well. And this is definitely something to keep on your brain. It also combos fantastically. If you're trying to fill your void with stuff, look out for cards like Kato or Uxu. Those both can be cards that work well in like a Torrent of Spiders shell. And this card can get really out of hand. So Scrapfind Skimmer seems like an excellent way to enable this. And there's a lot of decks that just completely fold to you filling the board with 1/1 spiders. Like, they have no way to punch through. Like, I could imagine Blightmoth kind of puts a hurt on this, but big Xenon decks might not have an answer to you just filling the board with spiders. And it's not like they can silence our Torrent of Spiders with Upsat, so they'll have a rough time with all their big boys punching through. If we fill our board with even 4 or 5 spiders is probably enough. Stirring Sands, I didn't include any other Sentinels in here, but if we're filling our void with a ton of stuff, keep in mind that Stirring Sands is an option, and you could go down the Sentinel line. I think just strict Reanimator probably is the way to go. But who knows, maybe there's a reason to be Primal and playing some Sentinels as well. And if that's the case, Stirring Sand would be your guy. Grasping at Shadows, once again, Reanimator. Near Perfect Intimidation, in the same boat. Reanimator decks work great with Scrapfind Skimmer. Prodigious Sorcery. Scrapfind Skimmer is in at any cost Kellers, so you could be filling your board with stuff like your void with like Honor of or Hailstorms and Ice Bolts, or at any cost, or even a Channel the Tempest. And then we use Prodigious Sorcery to get them back, double their damage, and just finish off our opponent in one go. Scrapfind Skimmer could be an option for those lists. Entering the meme mode here, Unlock the Vault. If we're putting 7 things in our void, there's a very good chance we're hitting at least 2 of the 3 of these, especially if you build your deck around it. And we'll have a nice happy body to carry a weapon, and a nice full void to pick from. So it might seem like a meme, but I could actually see this being pretty good. If you have a deck that can survive that long and pull off the full combo, you're gonna wreck some people with it. And then once again, if we're filling our void with a ton of random crap, you can fire off a massive Moment of Creation, and that would be pretty funny. Last thing to keep in mind. This card is even, so it could go in a Golem deck. Just putting that out there. But yeah, that's all for today's video. I wanted to go over some synergies for Scrapfind Skimmer. Now that we can have a playset of them, I'm excited to mess around with it. Let me know what decks you're looking to play Scrapfind Skimmer in. Do you think it's bad? Do you think it's good? I personally think it's above average. It's definitely not the best thing, but I like that it gives us some redundancy. You know, redundancy with Second Sight. Now we have another card that lets us draw two and like filter what card goes on top of our deck. Like, we've always had Portent Reader, but this card's pretty trash. Although, to be fair, it does let you discard and it does enable Second Sight, so who knows? Maybe the Portent Reader meta is upon us. But I think that's all for this. I'll be brewing with this card probably a good bit. Trying to come up with probably at least some sort of shared vision synergy, and maybe a reanimator list with Torrent of Spiders. But we will see that in the future. Feel free to hop into my stream. I stream Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, 8 p.m. till midnight, although sometimes I stream at random times, so your best bet is to follow me and turn notifications on, and then you can find out when I'm live. Always happy to tune other people's decks, so if you want to show up, feel free to do that, or hop in my Discord. That's the best place to reach me, and I'm pretty active in that, talking throughout the week, helping people's decks out, and posting memes, really. So, thank you for watching, guys, and have a fantastic weekend.